Hello, everybody, and welcome to Alphabet Scoop, 9 to 5 Google's weekly recap and discussion of the biggest Google-related news. I'm Kyle Bradshaw, and joined, as always, by my colleague, Abner Lee.
Hello. So, let's jump right in. The next Pixel feature drop is finally here. We're recording this on Tuesday, and we all expected it last week, but nothing came. Then we expected it yesterday because these things usually release on Monday. But nope, it's a Tuesday. I don't know why they waited that long. It's been the update process has been a bit weird these past few releases. There doesn't appear to be any commonality to it, but whatever the case, it's here. And I don't know, it's a pretty big one, actually. So it was well worth the wait.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it already kind of feels like this update is more interesting than Android 14.
Oh, famous last words. But I don't disagree.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. But again, I don't disagree. I guess this update was properly teased when Google at I.O. said that cinematic wallpapers and emoji wallpapers were coming on stage at I.O. during the shortened Android section. This was framed as more expressive features coming to Android, and that they would be first coming to Pixel in June. I wonder if this comes to other Android phones, given the manner it was announced. It doesn't leave out the possibility that this is something available for all Android phones going forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because they don't really talk about it in sense of Tensor. I mean, it is powered by machine learning, the cinematic wallpapers, but they don't really talk about the way that Tensor makes it faster or makes it better or anything like that. So it could come down the line, especially as something related to that is already available in Google Photos today. Now it's just being applied to a wallpaper.
Yeah, that's true. And then the emoji stuff that's nothing AI about it. It's nothing AI about it. Maybe it's some programmatic stuff, but it's not really. It's the way they framed it as more expressive features, like emoji. During the presentation of the keynote, it was laid out as the lead up to the actual AI generative wallpapers that's coming on Pixel phones. That seems to be a Pixel exclusive. But these two features right here, they just seem to be, they just seem to be nice things to have. Announcing an I.O. in that respect was kind of odd. But again, they're nice features to play with. Cinematic wallpapers, I've noticed, like in Google Photos, it still has some issues with fine hair. The AI isn't able to find it properly to define the contours of a person, but otherwise, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the emoji wallpaper. I've been using it since it launched. Since it arrived with Android 14 beta. Mm-hmm. That's been a lot of fun. I really like the enhancements that we have to it now that it's a live wallpaper instead of just being a static one. Like just the little things that happen. Like you plug in your phone and it all flashes to lightning bolts. All the emojis switch to lightning bolts for a second and then flash back. When you unlock your phone, it kind of spins into place. I mean, it might be different depending on which pattern that you choose, but for I think it's the Lotus is the one that I'm using. It's they all kind of spin into place and rest. It's cool. And tapping on the home screen. I don't know. It's really cool that they made it so delightfully interactive.
Mm-hmm. It's unique. It's a good expanding on what they do with Gboard, all the stickers in Gboard. It's a fun natural expansion. And again, this could benefit all of Android, and I think that would be a fun teaser when they do that.
It's just a matter of how Google decides to deliver this to non-Pixel phones. Mm-hmm. Would it be bundled in to something like Google Wallpapers? Would it be just like on Pixel today? It's just delivered as a separate app that you can choose to install. Because they wouldn't include it just in Android, I don't think, because that would be stepping on toes a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the expressive features. I think it's a good feature drop, gives people something to interact with, something to play with. And I think, as you were saying with emoji, the combinations are infinite. You can, up to 4,000 characters, 14 characters per combo. And then there's the randomized generator. People going to have delightful fun with it. So yeah, moving on from that, there's some camera stuff. The Pixel 7 Pro is adding macro focus video, which is basically taking the macro mode that you've had since the launch last year with still images and applying it to video. And from the samples we've seen so far, it's quite fun as well. That is the one thing I regret not having in going with the Pixel 7 this year.
Honestly, I have not used this once. So I like the macro mode in general. I just have not used it. I haven't had anything to take a picture of that I needed to get that close to. That's just me. I need to touch grass.
I've always loved macro, taking macro shots. So when it comes to hopefully the smaller phone eventually, I'll use the heck out of it. The other thing that they did with the camera was the palm timer, introduced on the Pixel Fold. So when you're in the timer mode, you can raise your palm. The Google camera will put up like a yellow square on your palm, and then it'll start the 10 or 3 second countdown timer. It's another fun feature and pretty good use of it. I think I would definitely use this more than the Pixel Watch, the camera app on the Pixel Watch, which I always forget to use. This seems pretty good.
I could see it being useful. I'd like to see how it works. Like the demo that they give us involves the front-facing camera, which makes perfect sense on the Fold because you can use the rear-facing camera as a front-facing camera or whatever. At least use the rear camera and still have a visual of the screen. But how well does this work if you wanted to use your Pixel 6 and you just use the rear camera and try and take a picture? I guess there would have to be an audio cue or something for it to know. Or just signal that your palm has been seen and that you should get into a pose now.
Yeah, because the front-facing cameras hit a bit of a rough patch. What's it, last year? Well, this year too. They're fine, but they're not excellent in terms of the front-facing quality.
They're just. I don't think the last time I really enjoyed the front-facing camera on a Pixel phone was probably the Pixel 3.
No, the extra wide camera.
Yeah, it was fun and delightful back then. Now it's just like, yeah, okay, it works, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. It's interesting that they launched the Pixel Tablet and Pixel Fold aren't even here yet, but Google decided to launch it already instead of waiting another 3 months or even longer to launch with the next feature drop or the one after that. So that's a nice immediate feature. This should be an update to the Google Camera app. Should bring that along.
Most likely, yeah.
Most likely. So yes, the other thing is home panel on Pixel phones. Again, this was something to use on the tablet. So instead of with device controls, instead of users customizing what devices what tiles they want, this will just show you the favorites tab of the Google Home app. It's bad. Device controls have come a long way from what was it, Android 11, when they introduced it as part of the power menu, which made a great deal of sense. And then with the Android 12 Material U redesign, it got relegated. It got relegated to just the tile in quick settings or from the lock screen, that button, the lock screen shortcut. And honestly, there was a point last year where I thought this was kind of dead. It hadn't seen any updates. the UI was kind of divorced from everything else, this layer on top of Android. And now they're just basically loading the full app, which you basically noted, which we caught earlier in the cycle. We didn't know it was for this, but you found it.
Right. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, though, that this isn't going to stay just Google Home. When any other smart home OEMs or whatever, smart home ecosystem makers decide that they want to implement this, like when if Samsung ever wants to allow smart things to appear here, they can do that. They have the option to do that. It's all open to them. So this isn't just a Google Home feature. This is giving developers the ability to show their UI here. So on your Samsung phone, when you use this feature down the line, whenever it comes to Samsung phones, it will not look like Google Home anymore. It will actually look like Samsung Smart Things because it is Samsung Smart Things.
Yeah, and it's just more updatable going forward if it hands it off to the app team versus making it a system feature, which they have to update so and so. So yeah, this is a smarter approach.
Very much so.
I wonder if any other app makes sense, or if it just makes sense with smart home devices.
You say that. I think I could see Tasker deciding to go this route too, because as I recall, they already supported the previous version of this, the previous
device
smart
controls.
Home. Yes, device controls. They were previously part of that, so I wouldn't be surprised if Tasker the Tasker team decided to go this route as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's another layer for developers to play around with, and again, it's having the exact same experience as the Google Home app. It's nice. So moving on, again, this is a rather packed feature drop. There are a handful of tidbits. Let's see, starting with, I'll list them off here. In Recorder, speaker labels, which were introduced in December, which lets you break out people in terms of recognizing who is talking instead of having just one massive clump of text. That now lets you separate people in the Google Docs transcription. So you see people's names with accompanying timestamps. You also can, when you're exporting video clips, speaker labels, the names will also be reflected. And you can also search them, which is a nice trio of features for Recorder. On the safety front, emergency sharing is letting you start and stop with your voice. Or you can have, again, using Google Assistant, you can say start a safety check for 30 minutes. And the last trio there is car crash detection. It will share your real-time location and call status with emergency contacts, in addition to just calling emergency services. What we're not seeing is the feature that you spotted and was able to get working successfully a few months in advance.
Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised to not see Dashcam included here because, as we showed, we were able to do a hands-on with it. The feature is effectively finished. There are things that I believe that Google could optimize better and should optimize better before it launches. But in terms of functionality, it's ready. Like, I am kind of surprised that Google isn't launching it, but perhaps maybe it's only ready enough for Google's internal testing right now. But I am shocked at how far along it is and that it is not included in today's update.
Which definitely opens the door for this becoming a Pixel 8 feature, which, even though, again, we show that it doesn't need any specific hardware, just a modern phone, a modern Pixel phone. But as a highlight of the Pixel 8, I think that makes a lot of sense. And when you're using it, you noted that your phone got hot. Everybody could figure that out from the moment you detailed this feature. But I wonder if the Pixel 8 is doing stuff with and Tensor G3 by extension, if it's doing some ISP stuff, image signal processing stuff, where there's a dedicated component, or it's way more efficient.
Yeah, something has to change because I don't foresee myself using Dashcam for the remainder of the summer, just because, yeah, it managed okay over Memorial Day weekend, but things have only heated up since then. And yeah, anytime I use it, the battery doesn't discharge that quickly, but it does discharge, and yeah, it gets hot, and Google Maps goes into dark mode, and it's just a mess. So
yeah,
there's
and I don't see them billing this as, to use this feature, get a third-party stand, get a third-party charging stand. That, I don't know, maybe they could, I guess. It would make a lot more sense if they made one, but I guess they could partner with people and just like have this dedicated accessory.
Right, and it also ties into the report that we were able to share that the Pixel 8 doesn't seem to be getting the key to improvements, which means that we're not going to be seeing, or presumably not going to be seeing, any built-in MagSafe-like docking ability, which I think is critical for Dashcam. Like, I couldn't imagine using this feature without having the ability to stick it to a stand like
basically.
that.
You want, everybody knows the contours of their car, and when you want, you know where you want to point it, and it needs to be a bit more precise than, I don't know, just a general view of the dashboard.
Right. So yeah, that's an interesting thought, though. I didn't think about that maybe Google would be preparing some kind of car mount of their own, or at the very least partnering with somebody for some made for Google accessory.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, rounding out to the smaller bits and pieces. So adaptive charging, which no longer requires an alarm to be set. This was officially announced today with a lot of Google AI branding, but it was, as far as we know, it was active all the way back in March. The other adaptive thing we got was adaptive haptics. So on the 6A and the 7A, the Pixel can lower its vibration intensity when it's on a hard surface. It can detect when it's on a hard surface, and it can be less of a violent shaking, let's say.
Yeah, I didn't really understand this because I could have sworn that I had this ready to go and active on the Pixel 7a during my testing period. So I'm confused why it's included in this feature drop. I mean, if it's rolling out to the Pixel 6a, that's news. But yeah, I mean, from what I tried of it, though, it seemed good because it was able to just make it so, okay, my phone's sitting down on the table. Let's not shake the entire table and let everyone at this meeting know that I am getting notifications on my phone and not paying attention.
Yeah. The other thing that was announced, well, as part of the feature drop, this is QPR3, based on QPR3, and this is Android 13's last update. It's Android 14 going forward. There's some small tweaks here and there. Enhanced pin privacy, where you can disable animations when you're entering on your lock screen. But yeah, that's a very well-timed feature, if you ask me, just given the recent release or the recent rolling out of passkeys. Mm-hmm. So now your accounts are secured by your phone, so somebody can steal your phone. In theory, they can just get into your account without needing to put in a password first. You just unlock the phone and go. So by introducing this, you have a little more security against people looking over your shoulder and seeing the buttons that you press. It's still not ideal, but it's definitely better than it was. Mm. So in terms of how to get QPR3, the Android beta program has been weird this cycle, in that in order to, if you opt out of the beta program, in order to receive, you have to opt out of the beta program to receive the public OTA. Otherwise, you'll just go on to Android 14. This is a scary process because historically, opting out automatically equals losing your data, wiping your data. And we've discussed this in the past internally, but I think this is a bad approach. The public OTA should automatically roll out, and Google should have a way of kicking you off, basically. instead of requiring users to do it manually in order to get the stable build.
I'm sure that Google's metrics make a lot of sense on this, that they implemented this because they saw the number of people who would be opted into the QPR and then decide to immediately opt into the next beta, like the next major version beta. And they probably saw, oh, well, look at these metrics. The overwhelming majority of people who are on the QPR 3 beta, they move on to the Android 14 beta. So let's just let it rock. So I'm sure it makes sense in some regard.
In some regard. So yeah, Android 13 QPR 3 still rolling out. Again, as we said at the top, this was one of the more significant updates, and it's coming pretty late in the yearly cycle. Usually the big updates are timed, usually at the end of the year, by nature of the stuff that Google couldn't get into the major Android release. It usually comes out 3 months later. But in terms of this one, this is at the tail end of Android 13. It comes after last month's was pretty disappointing. So disappointing I can't really remember what was announced.
Yeah, you would think that they would just hold these features to make Android 14 a little more exciting at launch.
Again, unless, as we were talking about at I.O., unless they have something, unless the user-facing stuff of Android 14, or even the user-facing features, unless they have something bigger coming that really significantly changes the experience. Because again, Android 14, as we've been saying for the past few weeks, lock screen clocks and lock screen shortcuts are the major tentpoles that we have right now, and that's just one tentpole.
Yeah, it's not anything too exciting just yet, so we need to see a little bit more of Google's vision, but release after release, we don't see anything yet, so we'll just keep holding out hope.
So yeah, that is Android 13 QPR 3. That is the Pixel feature drop for phones. But of course, we have the watch, and this is Google successfully managing two product lines in terms of I would say this is the first big proper update for the Pixel Watch in the way that the Pixel Buds, Google said they were getting feature drops, but it was always only one or two features at best per launch. But no, with the Pixel Watch, we have a big health update. So the last big update in February, it added fall detection. But now we have Google finally enabling blood oxygen saturation, or SpO2. You get an overnight percentage when you wake up in the morning, just like every other device. And you have high and low heart rate notifications. If your heart rate gets out of a predefined range, an expected range. These are two very basic health features that are available on the cheapest Fitbit trackers. And it was honestly surprising that this wasn't ready at launch.
Right, especially since all the sensors, all the everything that Google needed was already in place. It's not that hard to calculate that somebody's their resting heart rate is high. That's not hard.
Yeah.
And so, especially considering the heart rate is checked once per second, and that's the flagship feature of the Pixel Watch, it is interesting to see that they weren't previously doing much with that information.
Mm-hmm. As far as we can tell, the sensor stack on the Pixel Watch is identical to the Charge 5, to the Lux, to the Inspire 3. So they had it there. I wonder if, was this a battery issue? Was this, they couldn't get it down? At launch, they weren't able to get everything they needed working on Wear OS, so they couldn't optimize it, and they just decided to pick heart rate. It seems like that could be in the ballpark of what the issue was, but it's over 6 months. We're already talking about the Pixel Watch 2, and this update is coming pretty late stage.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. It just seems odd, especially since some of these things, like the high and low heart rate, could be handled by the Fitbit app on your phone. Like when the data syncs between the two, the Fitbit app could say, hey, by the way, a while ago, your heart rate was high. You might want to worry about that. Now, the oxygen saturation, that's just cool. I'm glad that they were able to introduce something else, something extra. But yeah, it is just strange that it took this long, and I don't know. I mean, at least it's here, but yeah, weird to not be included at launch.
Yeah. It's fine here. It's can't nothing more to say than that. The other thing they added was auto pause. So when you're running or when you're cycling and you take a break or you stop at a light, it'll automatically pause, and then once you get back with your physical activity, it starts recording again. Again, it's these three features are a pretty big cycle or a pretty big health update. Arguably, it should have been there on day one or even close to day one. But again, it's better late than never. It's fantastic that these features aren't being held for new generation hardware. It speaks to that the hardware is finally capable of doing this. It's always been capable of doing this.
Right. And another very long delayed aspect of the Pixel Watch, setting aside all of the health stuff, is that we finally, after having seen it for ourselves in person in October, they finally decided to release the metal Lynx band, which I don't understand what the delay could have been here.
Yeah,
like it was done. It was ready.
Yeah, as I was saying, we saw it. Now we're the metal wingspan, $200, not for everyone, but otherwise it's well built. Our review, by the time this is out, you should have, our review of it will be there, our hands-on impressions. But yeah, it's very solid, chunky hardware. Though arguably, this is not the metal band that I think most people want necessarily. The Milanese band is what I think it's a very common as the Apple Watch really popularized it, as well as other watches, of course. But that was pulled from the Google store. It was previously announced, it was previously seen, we knew the pricing details, it was said to be coming this spring, but no, that was pulled completely.
Yeah, there's just something that doesn't make sense here. I don't know if it's a supply chain issue or what, but it's done. I guess supply chain's the only thing that could hold it back that I can think of, because why would they, I don't know, embarrass themselves a little bit by announcing a product and then unannouncing it? Like that's unheard of.
Very quiet.
Maybe not for Google, but
yeah. So I don't know. So that's something we look forward to with the Pixel Watch too.
But yeah, I think that's everything in this month's this quarter's feature drop. It's still a very exciting one. Like it's going to be a short episode today, but at the same time, it's still an exciting feature drop in terms of what we've had recently.
Absolutely.
So that just means we're going to possibly on track for an even better one come December. And of course, there's going to be the one between there, but that's mostly going to be Android 14 et al. But
yeah, it's a good that's a good place to end it. Happy updating. Until then, you can find us on YouTube and Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and your other favorite podcasting platforms. Until then, see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.